Okay, hi guys. Question 247. Let's go cardio. So again, applying this average, finding this average, this weighted C over S ratio, critical here. That'll feature. But there's a bit of theory. They actually start off with some theory and then we'll jump into the numbers. As usual, you would have tried this question, of course, before you come to watch the video. So let's look at what they're talking about. This company here, they're thinking of shutting down one of their current products, elliptical trainers, and they want to carry on with the others. And they give us some figures, if you like, selling price, and we have the variable costs and the fixed costs. And then the interesting thing here is they tell us the labor costs are split, so you have to split that up first of all. Just split it up so you know what the picture looks like. Then you have general overheads. Okay, great stuff. So then we carry on. Then they give us a chart telling us sort of your classic break-even chart, nothing special. And then, so let's look at this. So that we want to close this product down, this elliptical training, and then they ask us to sort of make a decision based on just first of all, just look at the situation. So it says here that elliptical trainers, which of the following? So we've received a request from a customer to provide a one-off order of fitness in excess of normal production. And this would need to be completed within 2 weeks. Okay, no problem. Which of the following are valid factors in the decision to cease producing these elliptical trainers? So first of all, the first one says the elliptical trainers made a loss in 2015. Now this loss idea signals that there is the inclusion of fixed costs, and we know the fixed costs are apportioned. There might be some allocated, but there's some apportioning that happened here that really and truly wasn't specific to the elliptical trainers. So that's not really enough evidence. We need to strip that out and really see, which is why this leads us nicely into the second question, the second option, which says the elliptical trainers made a positive contribution in the year. If you like, in the year that, so in terms of decision making, it made a positive contribution. So we're like, no, we need to think about that. This thing actually made a positive contribution. So this is something to definitely sort of take into consideration and think, well, before you start stripping it, think about that. The elliptical trainer market outlook in the long term looks very poor, and that makes sense. Okay, if the demand is falling, this contraction, then yeah, why not? Cardio also sells treadmills, and many elliptical trainer buyers will also buy these treadmills. So it's almost like an introductory product. So yeah, you should think about that. In of itself, it might not sell, but it's leading to further sales. And the business was founded to produce and sell elliptical trainers. Well, change happens, so this isn't valid enough. Maybe it's time to change. So your only valid answers are 2, 3, and 4. C, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, which of the following statements are about relevant costing are true? So what are we saying here? Fixed costs are always general in nature and therefore never relevant. That's not true. Sometimes you have specific fixed costs that are relevant. If you like, you might have to get a new factory or bring someone on specifically for that job, and that's a fixed cost, so that is relevant. So fixed costs can be relevant. Notional costs are always relevant. Notional costs are never relevant. Never relevant. An opportunity cost represents the cost of the best alternative forgone. That is true. That's the definition of opportunity cost. An avoidable cost would be saved if an activity did not happen and therefore relevant. Yes. So yeah. Basically, future costs can be avoided, and so they are relevant in our decision if we choose not to do it. So you would have to include that. And so your answer is B, 3, and 4. Okay, great. So they ask us then to come along here and do some work. What is the margin of safety in revenue? So I've done my answer on a spreadsheet. So this is what I've looked at. Again, I'm sure you've done yours, so you can sort of see, we can see where we're different, where we have differences. So what do we have here? You have these units, you have the selling prices, then you have the material costs. I split the labor cost, as I'm sure you have, into its 40%. I'll just put 40% here and 60% here. Right? And that's what we have. You've done that. 40%, 60%. And then you have your variable overheads. So, I mean, I can play around with things now. In terms of just understanding what the fixed costs are, now I know what the sort of the fixed element is. You can see that 60% of 220. In terms of the total specific fixed cost, that's the 132 times the units. So basically I have the fixed cost times the number of units, and I can now see what the specific fixed costs are. I'm told the general fixed costs, so I can find out what my total fixed costs are. So I now know what my total fixed costs are. Now, in terms of finding this weighted C over S ratio, a range of ways. We're fundamentally interested in the rate that it is in the ratio of units. The contribution must be all put into this bag, so to speak, in the ratio of units, because they are sold not equally, but in that ratio of units. So best thing to do is that's the contribution. I've calculated contribution first, which is selling price minus all the variable elements, right? Which is why you have 972. If you look at 972, this is B3 minus B4, B5, and B6. So I have those variable elements there. And then I have so what I've done is I've now found the total contribution, which is the contribution times the total number of units, and I have that there. Those are the total contribution issues there. Total contribution, right? So that's kind of that's the contribution times the total number of units. And I've also found the total revenue, which is literally just the number of units times the selling price. So I have all of that. And now that I have that, I can easily find what the contribution to sales ratio is, which is just, if you like, the contribution, total contribution divided by the total revenue, which is 0.609. Now that I know that, well, I'm halfway there, because all I have to do now is I can find my break-even revenue, because I have my fixed costs. The relationship is that contribution is a fraction, or is about 60% of revenue, and at break-even, contribution is equal to fixed costs. And therefore, you can see what I've done there. I've divided my contribution. Sorry, yes. Where are we? B13. I've divided my fixed costs, forgive me, by my contribution to sales ratio, giving me that. And then I know I've calculated this already, the 192, by adding all the revenue together. That's the total revenue, and therefore the difference, of course, is that margin. That's the margin of safety, the difference between the budgeted revenue, what revenue we're hoping for, against the break-even revenue, right? So we can fall by 1577041. So the answer there is B. The answer there is B. Okay, great. And then the next question says that which of the following would happen? You can already, I suppose you can work out if the products were sold in order of the most profitable products first. So what would happen is that the break-even would be reached earlier. As you can imagine, you're selling if you sell it in that order, we've been selling it so far in a balanced order. But if we say, you know what, we're not selling any of the other things first, we're just going to sell the one that gives us the highest margin really first, we would arrive at break even pretty quickly. I guess you can almost sort of see what we're pretty much just trying to get through our fixed costs. So the one we sell with the greatest margin, we would reach there first. The problem here we're having is we're looking at this weighted, where we must sell each sell in that ratio. But we're sort of saying, no, we're going to sell just the one that gives us the highest break even first. So the answer here is A. 4 is A. And then finally, which statement correctly describes the treatment of general fixed overheads when preparing a quotation? So general fixed overheads, first of all, should not be included, if you like. Just should not be included. So the fact that it says the overheads should be included, they should be included, no. They're general overheads. They're just not connected to the product. They were going to be there anyway, if you like. So it says here, the only options we have is the overheads should be excluded because they are sunk. Cost, well, no, that's not true, really. It's more to do with the fact that when we're making decisions about the future, we're talking about costs that will increase, if you like, or incremental costs. Relevant costs are always about incremental future related. So it's more the fact, I argue, that they're not incremental costs. And that's pretty much it. Okay, great stuff. And I will see you in the next video.